Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to the last day of Barsetshire week. Today I'm going to be talking about the final book in Antony Trollope's Barsetshire series, and that is The Last Chronicle of Barset. Chapter 1. How did he get it? "I can never bring myself to believe it, John," said Mary Walker, the pretty daughter of Mr. George Walker, attorney of Silverbridge. Walker and Winthrop was the name of the firm, and they were respectable people who did all the solicitor's business that had to be done in that part of Barsetshire on behalf of the Crown, were employed on the local business of the Duke of Omnium, who is great in those parts, and altogether held their heads up high, as provincial lawyers often do. So, The Last Chronicle of Barset. The final book in the series. I love the last book a lot, and it has a special place in my heart for being the last book and also for drawing together all of the previous books. In The Last Chronicle of Barsetshire we encounter characters from the Warden and Barchester Towers, from Dr. Thorne, from Framley Parsonage and from the small house at Allington, as well as a few new characters. Because there are so many characters in The Last Chronicle of Barsetshire, it is a pretty long one and there are a lot of different plots. But the central plot revolves around a man called Mr. Crawley, who we encountered in Framley Parsonage, who is a clergyman, but he is a very impoverished clergyman. He struggles to provide for his family, and at the beginning of the book he is accused of stealing a cheque. This cheque is in his possession, but he doesn't really know how it got there. He is under great sort of physical and mental strain, and he is effectively very depressed. The way the book deals with sort of mental illness is really, really fascinating and really different. And the book explores sort of Mr. Crawley, the accusations laid against him, the sort of efforts to clear him if possible, and also the effect that it has on his family, especially his daughter Grace, who is 17 or 18, I think, and who is in love with a man who loves her back, but who she doesn't feel she could ever marry, with this sort of shadow over her father's name. As well as this plotline, we have a lot of other plot lines. One thing that is magnificent is that it draws together all of the previous books in a wonderful, wonderful way. We encounter so many characters, loose ends are tied up, things are sorted out, new things are suggested, and because by the time you get to this book you've been on a journey with so many of these characters over different books where they are major and minor characters in and out, especially with some of the characters who were in the first book and have been in the background ever since, who have changed and grown up over all this time. It's wonderful to read about them, and it's so like emotionally satisfying to get to this stage where you've been with so many of these characters on this long journey, and where you've been with this place, this county, and so many of its towns on this long journey, and you visit so many of the towns and places you've been to before throughout this book, which is so wonderful. I think Antony Trollope does a wonderful job of tying it all together, but also there are scenes set in London, there are new characters, and it is really, really varied, and there are so many brilliant plots in here. I also think that kind of central plot of Mr. Crawley and the cheque that may or may not be stolen is really, really brilliant. Mr. Crawley, in a way, is one of the most fascinating characters in the entire series. He has a lot of health issues, he is severely depressed, as well as having a lot of physical health issues, and the way the book explores his sort of state of mind, and someone that is hard to understand in a way. He refuses all help for himself and for his family. He is incredibly, incredibly proud, but you also understand him and you understand why, and he is incredibly moral. Although he does feel that the world is all against him, and although at times he is cold to the people around him, to his wife and family, he's also a good man at heart, and you do come to understand him in such a wonderful way. You revisit so many of the characters and families from the previous books in so many wonderful ways. There are some brilliant moments between Mr. Prudy and Mrs. Prudy, who are so important in Barchester Towers, and I think you come to a real understanding, especially of Mrs. Prudy and her relationship with her husband and her feeling towards him in this last book. Another thing I love about the book is that it's just a brilliant read in terms of plot. Like, it's really, really gripping, and I didn't know where things were going to go. And also he does it perfectly and ties up things brilliantly, because I was worried, I think, going into this book, that he would draw all the previous books together, and in doing so would tamper with endings that I didn't want to be tampered with, and would revisit characters that I thought were left so perfectly that I kind of didn't want him to revisit them. And yet, I should have trusted Antony Trollope more, because everything is as it should be in this book and everything is correct. And there was one particular decision that I really thought he was going to make, and I would have been annoyed, but I would have like, okay, fine, you know, Antony Trollope, and he didn't. He did what I wanted him to do, and I was very happy about that, and I should have trusted him more. It's a brilliant, brilliant book, The Last Chronicle, so moving and so powerful. Like I said, because you've been with so many of these characters for so long, it makes the emotional power of so many things in this last book so utterly powerful and so magnificent. But like the rest of the series, it's really funny, it's really complicated thematically, It deals really interestingly with issues of morality and trust and mental health and how much you can know yourself, with issues of family, with issues of marriage and love and romance, and so many other fascinating things. It is a brilliant, marvellous book and such a wonderful end to a perfect series. It's a brilliant, brilliant series. As I said, and have said all through this week, I cannot recommend the Barsetshire Chronicles enough. Antony Trollope is a brilliant writer and this series is magnificent. I would highly, highly recommend them. They're such interesting, fascinating books with brilliant themes, brilliant writing, brilliant characters, and just all round brilliance. Please let me know down in the comments if you have read the Barsetshire Chronicles, what you thought of them, or if you've started them, or if you want to read them in the future. I'm really keen to know. Also, if anyone has read the Barsetshire series, which is Antony Trollope's other interconnected series of novels, I'm really looking forward to reading them in the future, so do let me know what you thought of them as well. And that's all for now, I think. Thank you very much for watching and sticking with Barsetshire Week, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.